how has COVID been impacting like the overall planning process and projects you've been involved with?
I'll take the initial pass at that. So, it was at least in the city of Los Angeles, right, which is where we at Irvine Associates do most of our business. We were concerned, of course, that when the pandemic started and everything shut down, that everything was going to shut down. And, and we heard horror stories of like the city, like Seattle, I think, had completely shut down everything, permits, everything for a couple of weeks. But the city of LA, I mean, hats off to them. They really were able to adapt quickly and transition their workers who were mostly in City Hall or their satellite City Hall offices to have them transition to work remotely. And it was, I think, probably a huge IT headache, but hearings public hearings took a pause, but the development services center, the permitting process, entitlement processes, all this stuff was still moving, albeit for I think the first couple of weeks it was a little slower, and as people were adapting to their new environments. But yeah, I mean, it has been amazing to watch, the city of LA essentially handle this emergency pandemic issue. And so, I mean, what we've seen though is, public hearings have come back, right? Public hearings are happening. Entitlements are still moving forward. And it's been interesting because public hearings are happening over Zoom and telephonically. And we keep hearing reports that with neighborhood council meetings, with community meetings, with public hearings, that the attendance and public participation for these hearings has never been as high as it is now.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know if it's a
now is that a good or bad thing though?
Right.
I don't know if it's a matter of convenience or what, but but the process is still moving. I think, of course, things are a little slower. There are furloughs that are happening, and the city of LA had to go, introduce early retirements. There's talks of layoffs potentially, but 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 the fact is that things are still moving forward, and when we've been able to, process several cases during this pandemic and submit entitlements, process entitlements, and even permits.
I would double down on that praise but add a couple of things too, because like at the beginning of it, when everything was shutting down, we had no idea what was going on. There was sort of like everybody's in mass anxiety at the time. I have been really impressed with kind of how the city of Los Angeles has kept the trains running, if not entirely on time, kept them running or whatnot. But a couple like observations of things that have sort of become slightly more difficult, where that you can't enter City Hall basically at all, can't enter Fig Plaza without an appointment. And there's sort of certain things wherein if you needed an answer to a question and somebody wasn't getting back to you or something, like you could literally just show up at the planning counter and pull a number and ask a question or something. Like we don't have that available right now. So therefore it's like harder to kind of access some case files or to do some of the research on some things. But then it's funny that the public hearings and different things, they've almost become kind of more efficient too at times. I think they almost happen quicker because it's like 2 minutes, mute button. You know what I mean? So but the one other thing that I think is gonna have, like, we're starting to see kind of more impacts potentially to projects is beginning in March, like when all of the lockdowns were kind of going into effect, there was this sort of a series of emergency orders put out by the mayor that one, for example, tolls, like in legal terms, tolling, tolls all of the deadlines for these sort of land use decision processes, that the city has X number of days to, take you to hearing or issue you a determination letter or things like that. And because we are in an ongoing emergency declaration, none of those deadlines are valid right now. So project applicants we're kind of just at the mercy of planning on their timelines in a certain way, and don't really have like, we can't push back on, you know, our projects being kind of timelines being pushed back. Of course, we're understanding because the whole world's on fire right now, but like it that is come to impact some projects. And then I would say like some of the overall kind of just like budget implications for the city are potentially troubling it look ahead to kind of like the budget next year or different things. So
yeah, and I think I would agree with you, Tanner, that the hearings have been much more efficient, because also it's just the physical aspect of, you know, people aren't lining up, you don't have that like, hey, are you here? Please come up to the podium. But
it's not that group mentality thing too that you
right.
have brings. That
Yeah.
builds upon each other when you have several opposition and they all come together. It does create its own momentum.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think it's become a little bit more efficient, but then at the same time, you know, like Alex was saying, there's a lot more participation, and we've seen planning commissions go from, you know, 8:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And at the, you know, the last hearing that we went to, the meeting ended when they lost quorum because, you know, the commissioners couldn't stick around. So. You're muted.
I said I love waking up at 8 p.m. and realizing I have to be at CPC at 8:30 and am able to make it there.
8 p.m. Tanner?
8 a.m. whatever. Yeah. On the
You're
weekend.
right on time.
Yeah.
That means you woke up early.
What is time anymore, guys? No.
Right.
But I mean, I'm hoping that as we move, you know, forward and out of the, you know, work at home all the time situation, I think it would be cool if they were able to incorporate the, you know, the virtual aspect of those hearings with the in-person hearings. Like, can you attend from your desk? Because a lot of people complain, you know, we have subdivision hearings at like 10 o'clock in the morning on a, you know, Wednesday, and a lot of people come in and they use their public comment to say it's 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. Like, this was really hard to get to. So I think it would be good if people could continue participating that way.
Yeah, we attended an event last week. Lisa Weber, who's one of the deputy directors for city planning for LA, right? She even gave an update saying that, you know, she believes that a lot of these various features that we've given are, you know, like, for example, the virtual, or, you know, the Dropboxes we do, or maybe the virtual plan checking. She feels that you know, at least the Dropbox program has been widely successful, widely efficient. So, for example, she believes that this will probably be here to stay post-COVID, and I think that's probably common amongst, you know, most industries. I think a lot of these kind of adjustments we made are you know, potentially here to stay for a while, just for efficiency purposes. But
I think it makes a lot of sense, especially like LA County already had their like kind of online portal up for submittal, and you can like pay with a credit card online.
That's what the city needs to get to.
Clients prefer that. No longer do they have to write a blank check to City of LA and not know what the amount is, and it's so much more. I mean, it's not.
I mean, when you think about our policy at Irvine and Associates for larger projects with larger fees, was to take the fee that we had, you know, ran by the city and said, you know, this is the correct estimate, but also additional checks just in case.
Just in case we didn't have enough. Yeah, that was, you know, something else that popped up. Yeah, but yeah, certainly, I mean, in terms of the actual entitlement submittal, the Dropbox system, which essentially, just to update everybody, whoever's listening at this point, you know, the Dropbox system is there's a row of tables and there's boxes, and, you know, if you want to submit an entitlement, you put together your entitlement package with all the necessary material and fill out a form and literally drop it in a box. And you don't need an appointment to do that, which is, I mean, it's mind blowing, because before the pandemic, before that Dropbox system, we were requesting submittal appointments with planning, and some of them were like 5 to 6 months out. It was crazy. You know, and it was like you'd submit the appointment request and then get on a waiting list. So like any cancellations.
They created an application package that's about this thick. Like, there's no reason why we should be printing out that much paper for someone that's going to glance at it for 5 seconds and throw it.
I would like to see it go much more digital.